State Senator Buck Newton is seeking to be North Carolina's next Attorney General, but after the general election in 2016. Sir, thank you for your time. As a new candidate, I've always interviewed you as a senator.
It's great to be back.
Why be Attorney General?
Well, we're going to have a new one. The current Attorney General has decided he's running for another office, so we need a good Attorney General. I've been very frustrated with our current Attorney General and some of the decisions he's made and some of the policies he's tried to implement, and so I think it's very important that we have the right person in there, and I believe I've got the right ideas to do that.
What's been frustrating? If you win, the seat would flip from Democrat to Republican.
Sure.
So what's got you upset about that?
Well, it would flip. It's been, I think, since the 1800s since an elected Republican was there. Kelly, I'm very dissatisfied with the relationship between the state of North Carolina and the federal government, and I think that our Attorney General has a key role to play in that. We're dealing with a lot of things like, say, regulation, or whether we're talking about executive orders in the news recently. The Attorney Generals have to represent the state of North Carolina, and the people to protect the laws of this state. And we've had a very passive Attorney General, one I think that has been more interested in politics and not the interest of the state. So that is something I want to change. I think that we need to have a real review of where we are in terms of what the litigation aspects that the state of North Carolina is involved in. And we have serious issues on crime and law enforcement. As you know, and we've probably talked about off camera before, the crime lab is really a disaster and taking close to 3 years sometimes to get evidence back to the courtroom, and this has been going on a long time, and we need to address these issues.
About that crime lab, is it good people working in a bad bureaucracy, customer service-wise, or do you need to clean house as best that state policy would allow you to fire and lay off people and start over?
No, I don't think cleaning house is the right answer at all. I think there's a lot of quality people there. It has to do with the way it's being managed and how the resources are being allocated. There have been some improvements, and there are some real challenges with some of the court rulings that we've had that have come down from the U.S. Supreme Court. I think they're appropriate, but about analysts having to testify in person and things like that, and we have to figure out how to work through those things. It's going to require resources, many of which the legislature is already giving, but it's also going to take reprioritization of things and a new direction of management, and I'm looking forward to starting that.
Every once in a while we would see the Attorney General come down and testify and try to influence policy or
Sure.
speak for or against certain legislation. What role do you see if you get elected? Do you have any business in the legislative halls telling legislators what they ought to pass?
Yes, but it is, I think, different from what our current Attorney General has done. I think there's definitely a place for certainly informal conversations with folks. I think the Attorney General should pay particular attention to being careful not to prejudice his client, which is the state of North Carolina, the people of North Carolina, and their elected representatives. So, going out with a big public release about something that they're opposed something or it's got to be a certain way, I would be very hesitant to do that unless it really challenged a constitutional aspect of something. And there is a role to play. I think that there's certainly a role to play on policy as it relates to things like budgets for the crime lab, or whether we're going to build a new one, or things of that nature. Absolutely, law enforcement aspects, and certainly when asked for opinions. But I think the Attorney General should play a more circumspect role on policy making and be more about enforcing the laws and the Constitution and seeing that that's done effectively, as opposed to maybe taking a pass, which is what I think we've seen a lot of. And I'm trying to be generous about that, but at the same time I feel very strongly about it. We need a new direction in that regard.
North Carolina, that's Buck Newton. He's a state senator right now. He wants to be your next Republican Attorney General for North Carolina. Thank you, sir, for a few moments of your time here at this event.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.